So within Cisco, we have access to large volumes of sample data. So as an example, the three main attack vectors we see, number one, by a long way, is email. Around about 74–75% of threats, malware, ransomware coming through email. Number two, the second biggest attack vector is web. It's around about 22% coming through web. And the third one is endpoint. So that's the third main attack vector. So us as an organisation, our three focus areas are endpoint, followed by the network, and followed by the cloud. But when you talk about these threats, we see, I think it's 600 billion email samples a day, 3.5 billion endpoint samples, and around about 140 billion web samples a day. So we've got an awful lot of data. And just speaking, like, for example, about financial services, if you have strong email security, web security, and endpoint security, it's all a percentages game. If you have none of that, you're vulnerable to 100%. If you've got all of that, the percentages keep on increasing. And just moving away, moving back to the customer side with my thinking now, you also need to think about policies, procedures, and people internally as well. So just as one example, I read last week that WannaCry is still out there in the wild. Another 74,000 machines were affected last week. There's been a patch available from Microsoft now for almost a year. Simple patch management in the first place would have stopped that. That would have never been a problem if people had proper patch management in place. The second thing is users. So when I was working back in financial services, I remember back in 2004, 2005, when they took local admin access away from everybody in the company with the exception of 2 or 3 people. So now we can't install malware on our machines. We're locked out, we can't change the registry. So all of a sudden, just making that policy and putting that policy in place stops another high percentage of that malware and ransomware as well. So everything's a numbers game. And Andrew was saying banks, we don't typically hear about them getting breached much, and that's the reason why, because it's so difficult. I mean, there is always a vulnerability, but if you take the right steps to protect yourselves, you can definitely put the percentages back into your favour as well.